The night was silent. Only the soft wind moved across the broken land. Ruins of war lay everywhere, burnt vehicles, cracked walls, and shadows of battles that had ended long ago. In this silence, a squad of human soldiers marched carefully, their boots pressing against the dust, their rifles ready. They were tired but alert, for in this wasteland, danger always waited in the dark. At the front was Sergeant Miller, a man who had survived many battles. His eyes were sharp, his voice calm, and his soldiers trusted him with their lives. Behind him walked Private Lewis, young and full of questions, always looking around with wide eyes. Beside him was Corporal Diaz, quiet and steady, carrying heavy equipment without a word. The rest of the squad moved in formation, their bodies tense but their minds focused. As they moved across the broken ground, something caught Miller's eye. A faint glow, like silver light, flickered between two fallen buildings. He raised his hand. The squad stopped instantly. Silence spread again. "Something's there," Miller whispered, and pointed toward the light. The soldiers moved slowly, weapons aimed forward. The closer they came, the clearer the glow became. It was not fire, not a flare, not any human light they knew. Instead, it looked alive, pulsing gently like a heartbeat. When they reached the ruins, they saw it. A strange object half buried in the rubble. It was round, metallic, but not like any ship or drone they had seen before. Symbols glowed faintly on its surface, flowing like liquid silver, changing shapes as if alive. Private Lewis gasped, "Is that alien?" Diaz gave him a sharp look, but his own eyes were wide too. Miller knelt beside the object, brushing dust away with his glove. "It's a pod," he muttered, "but not ours, not anyone's from Earth." The pod gave a soft hum, then a hiss of air. A small door slowly opened, releasing a pale mist into the night. The soldiers raised their rifles, hearts pounding. They expected a weapon or a monster or something deadly, but what came out was none of those. Inside the pod, lying weak and trembling, was a girl. Her skin glowed faintly blue under the moonlight, her hair like silver strands falling across her face. Her eyes, half open, shone with a strange light that seemed both human and alien. She tried to move, but fell back, her body too weak. Her lips parted, a soft whisper escaped, words broken and fragile. "Help me," she said, her voice trembling. The soldiers froze, staring at her in shock. Lewis lowered his rifle first, his young heart filled with sympathy. "She's hurt, sir. She needs help," he said quickly. Diaz frowned, suspicion in his eyes. "Or it's a trap. We don't know what she is." Miller's face was hard, but his eyes stayed on the alien girl. She looked so fragile, so close to death, yet her gaze pierced deep into their souls. For a moment, the world around them felt still. The ruined battlefield, the broken machines, the endless war, they all faded. Only the girl remained, glowing faintly in the night, like a fallen star. Miller made a decision, his voice firm. "We take her, she's alive, and we don't leave anyone to die out here, not even her." The squad hesitated, but they obeyed, trust in their sergeant stronger than fear. They moved closer, carefully lifting the girl from the pod. Her skin was cold, but as Lewis touched her arm, a faint warmth spread into his hand. Her eyes fluttered open for a moment, looking straight at him. In that instant, Lewis felt something strange, like a silent voice pressing into his thoughts. He shivered but said nothing. The soldiers carried her away from the pod. Behind them, the glowing symbols on the metal began to fade. The pod gave one final hiss, then went silent, as if it had completed its mission. The squad marched quickly, carrying the alien girl between them, each step heavy with questions they could not answer. Who was she? Why had she fallen to earth? And why did her eyes look at them with hunger instead of fear? None of them spoke, but each soldier felt it. This was not just a rescue. It was the beginning of something far greater. The night wind carried their footsteps across the ruins. And in the darkness, unseen eyes watched from far away, following the squad's every move. The base was quiet when the squad returned, their boots echoing in the metal halls. Every soldier's face was tense, their eyes on the fragile alien girl they carried. She was so light that two men could lift her easily, yet her presence felt heavier than any weapon they had carried before. The air seemed to hum softly around her, as if she carried a secret power even in weakness. Inside the medical wing, bright lights and cold steel surrounded her. Doctors rushed forward, surprised and confused by what they saw. They touched her skin, checked her pulse, listened to her faint heartbeat. But every reading on their machines came back wrong. Her blood was not like human blood. Her temperature shifted every few seconds. Her heartbeat sounded more like two rhythms instead of one. "Sir, our equipment can't stabilize her," one doctor said to Sergeant Miller. Miller's jaw tightened. "Then improvise, do whatever you can. She doesn't die on my watch." The doctors tried fluids, oxygen, even special stimulants. But the alien girl only gasped weakly, her chest rising and falling like a candle flame in the wind. Private Lewis stood at the door, unable to look away. He remembered the moment her eyes had locked with his in the ruins. There had been something in that gaze, something beyond language. Now, as she struggled for breath, he felt a strange pull in his chest, as if her weakness was reaching inside him. Hours passed, but nothing worked. Finally, her lips parted, a faint sound escaped. It was broken English, soft and trembling. "Not this need you," she whispered, her voice barely audible. The doctors leaned closer, confused. "What does she mean?" one asked. But Lewis understood, though he could not explain why. He stepped forward, his voice shaking. "She doesn't need medicine. She needs us." The room went silent, every soldier and doctor staring at him. Diaz scoffed. "Are you crazy, kid? She's not human. She doesn't need us. She needs treatment." But Lewis shook his head, his eyes fixed on her glowing face. "No, look at her. The machines don't help, but when I touched her, she looked at me like she was alive again." Sergeant Miller studied the boy's face, then the girl's. Her weak hand was trembling, reaching into the air, as if searching for someone. Miller gave a sharp nod. "Do it, but carefully. If she reacts badly, we stop it." Lewis approached slowly, his hands shaking. He sat beside her bed, took her cold, glowing hand into his own. The moment their skin touched, the lights flickered in the room. Every machine beeped wildly, screens flashing with strange readings. The alien girl gasped deeply, her chest rising with sudden strength, her eyes flying open with a glow that filled the room. Lewis felt it instantly. A surge of energy rushed through him, like ice and fire mixing in his veins. It was draining, his body trembling, but at the same time he felt warmth spreading through his heart. The alien girl's lips curved faintly into a smile, her breathing steadied, her skin no longer cold. She whispered again, stronger this time. "Yes, human life strong." The soldiers gasped, the doctor stepped back in shock. Diaz cursed under his breath. "She's draining him, she's stealing his strength." But Miller's eyes narrowed, watching carefully. Lewis's face was pale, but he did not let go, his gaze locked on hers. For some reason, he felt no fear, only connection. When he finally released her hand, Lewis fell back, gasping for air. The alien girl sat upright for the first time, her eyes glowing like twin stars. Her voice was clearer, her words still broken but filled with power. "Humans saved me. No machine, only you, only human." A heavy silence filled the room. The soldiers looked at each other, fear and awe mixed in their eyes. The doctors whispered rapidly, unable to explain what they had seen. Miller finally spoke, his voice heavy. "So that's it. She doesn't survive on medicine. She survives on us." The alien girl nodded slowly, her silver hair falling across her shoulders. She was beautiful, fragile, yet something in her presence carried danger. Lewis felt it too, a strange hunger in her eyes, not for food, not for water, but something deeper. something that humans had never given before. Miller turned away, already thinking ahead. If Command finds out, they'll take her, lock her away, study her until there's nothing left, he muttered. He looked back at the squad, his face hard. But right now, she's ours. We found her. We keep her alive. The alien girl lay back against the bed, stronger now, but her glowing eyes followed Lewis, watching him as if he was the key to everything. And deep in his heart, Lewis knew this was not the end of her hunger. This was only the beginning. The next morning, the base was restless, whispers spreading through every corner. News had already traveled. The squad had brought back something not of this world. An alien girl, alive, breathing, but not like any living being they had known. And more than that, she had survived not through medicine, but through a human touch. Sergeant Miller kept her hidden in the medical wing. Only trusted soldiers were allowed near her. The doctors begged for samples, begged to run deeper tests, but Miller refused. We don't cut her, we don't cage her, not yet, he said firmly. His voice was final, but his mind was troubled. Private Lewis, pale from the night before, sat outside her room. He still felt weak, his body heavy, but in his chest there was something else too, a strange warmth, as if part of her had stayed inside him. He could still hear her voice in his head, whispering softly, though her lips had not moved. Inside the room, the alien girl sat quietly on the bed. Her silver hair shimmered in the low light, her blue skin glowing faintly with every breath. She looked fragile, but her eyes were sharp now, watching everything. When Lewis entered, she turned to him, her gaze pulling him like a magnet. You, she whispered, her voice soft but clear. You saved. Lewis nodded nervously. I just did what I could. Her eyes glowed brighter. Not just could, only human. Only you. Lewis frowned. What do you mean? Why me? She touched her chest, then reached her trembling hand toward him. Life, human life, energy strong, my kind need, without we die. The words were broken, but the meaning was clear. She was not healed by medicine, not by science, but by something inside humans themselves. Lewis swallowed hard, his throat dry. You're saying your people feed on us? The girl shook her head weakly. Not feed, not kill, we bond. We take little, just enough, but only humans give, no other life. Her eyes shone with something deeper, something like desperation. If no bond, I die, she whispered, almost pleading. The door opened, and Sergeant Miller stepped in. He had heard enough, his face dark, his voice sharp. So it's true. She needs us to survive, he muttered. Diaz followed behind him, his hand on his rifle. Sir, that's dangerous. She's not a patient. She's a parasite. The alien girl's eyes flickered, fear flashing across her face. No parasite, no monster, she said quickly, her words stumbling but her meaning clear. I live, I need, not take all, not harm, only share. Her gaze fell on Lewis again, soft and pleading. Miller studied her for a long moment, then turned to Lewis. She bonded with you, didn't she? He asked quietly. Lewis hesitated, then nodded. Yes, but it didn't feel wrong, sir. It felt like she was taking only a small part of me, like giving blood, but without pain. Miller's eyes narrowed. And if she decides she needs more? Lewis had no answer, only silence. The alien girl lowered her head, her voice trembling. My kind, once strong, now dying. Enemies hunted us, we ran. Last of us left, I sent here for help. Only humans left for hope. Her words struck the room like a heavy weight. Diaz shook his head. Hope or trap? I don't trust her. But Miller stayed silent, his mind racing. If what she said was true, she carried the survival of her entire species. But if Diaz was right, she could also be the beginning of humanity's downfall. That night, Lewis couldn't sleep. He kept hearing her words echo in his mind. Without bond, I die. Finally, he returned to the medical wing, finding her awake, staring at the ceiling. When she saw him, she smiled faintly, weak but gentle. Again, she whispered, holding out her hand. Lewis hesitated, fear and curiosity battling inside him. But something stronger pushed him forward, a pull he couldn't resist. He sat beside her and placed his hand in hers. The surge came again, fire and ice rushing through his veins. But this time it was different. He felt her emotions, loneliness, hunger, fear, but also hope. She wasn't just taking energy, she was sharing herself with him. For a moment, their minds touched, and he saw flashes, stars, great ships, a dying world collapsing under fire. Her people screaming as they fell, hunted to extinction. Lewis gasped, pulling back his hand, his chest heaving. The girl's eyes glowed with tears. "Now you know," she whispered. Lewis stared at her, breathless. "You're the last of your kind." She nodded slowly. "Yes, last, but with human, maybe not last." A shadow passed across the window, unseen by them. A drone hovered in the distance, its red eye blinking. Someone, or something, was already tracking her. And the secret need she carried might not only save her. It might also bring doom to every human who chose to help her. The base felt different the next day. The soldiers moved through the halls with unease, whispering about the alien girl. Some called her a miracle, others a curse. But one thing was certain. Her presence was changing everything. In the medical wing, she sat upright for the first time, her silver hair falling softly across her shoulders. She looked stronger now, but not complete, like a flame that could burn out without fuel. Her glowing eyes followed every human who entered, but they always returned to Lewis. He was the one she trusted, the one she reached for, the one she had chosen. Sergeant Miller stood nearby, arms crossed, his face unreadable. He had agreed to keep her alive, but doubt gnawed at him. What if she needed more than they could give? What if her hunger grew beyond control? Still, he could not ignore what he had seen. Her survival was tied to them, to humans. The girl lifted her hand toward Lewis again, her voice soft, almost pleading. "Bond," she whispered again. Lewis hesitated, fear pulling him back, but curiosity pulling him forward. He looked at Miller, who gave a slow nod. "Do it, but we watch." Lewis stepped closer, his hand shaking slightly as he reached for hers. The moment their skin touched, a rush of energy swept through him, stronger than before. The room's lights flickered, the machines beeped wildly. But Lewis felt more than just energy this time. He felt her. Visions filled his mind. Endless stars, shining cities made of crystal, great towers floating above oceans of light. Then darkness, fire raining from the sky, screams echoing across broken worlds. He saw her people fleeing, their ships torn apart by unknown enemies. He saw her alone, drifting, desperate, clinging to survival. And through it all, one emotion burned strongest: loneliness. Lewis gasped, his knees weak, but he did not pull away. The alien girl's grip was gentle, her glowing eyes locked with his. Her voice echoed inside his head, not spoken, but felt. "Now you see me, now you know my truth." Tears filled her eyes, though her face remained calm. "My kind, once strong, now hunted, all gone, and I'm last, but with human bond. Maybe hope," she whispered aloud, her words broken but full of meaning. Miller's eyes narrowed, watching carefully. "She's inside your head, isn't she?" he said quietly. Lewis nodded breathlessly. "Yes, she's showing me everything." Diaz cursed under his breath. "That's not bonding, that's invasion." But Lewis shook his head, his voice firm. "No, it's not attack. She's sharing, not taking. She's giving me her memories, her pain." His face was pale, but his eyes were steady. "She's not a monster, she's alone." The girl's voice trembled. "Not monster, not enemy, only need, only bond." Her glowing hand pressed against Lewis's chest, and suddenly he felt warmth spread through his body. Not just draining, but returning, like she was giving back what she had taken, balancing the bond. For the first time, Lewis felt whole, not weaker. Miller's jaw tightened, his voice heavy. "She's proving herself, but this changes everything." He turned to the others. "If Command learns of this, they'll see her as a weapon. not as someone to protect. Diaz muttered darkly. Maybe that's what she is. The alien girl's eyes flickered with fear at Diaz's words. She leaned closer to Lewis, her voice barely more than a whisper. Not weapon, not control, only trust, only human heart. Lewis felt his chest tighten at her words. He realized she was not asking for survival alone. She was asking for acceptance, for belonging, and deep down, he knew she was binding herself not to all humans, but to him. Outside the medical wing, the night was no longer silent. Unseen by the soldiers, small shadows moved across the hills. Drones with red eyes scanned the ground, following the trail of energy she had left behind. Her enemies had already found her scent, and they were coming. Inside, Lewis finally let go of her hand, gasping for breath. The girl smiled faintly, her voice stronger now. First bond made, now I live. Her glowing eyes locked with his, and for the first time, there was no fear in them. Only trust and something else, something deeper. Miller looked at Lewis, his voice low but certain. You've opened the door, private. Now we all walk through it, whether we want or not. The girl leaned back on the bed, her hand still reaching toward Lewis even as her eyes closed. Her whisper filled the room, soft but clear. Human and I, now one path. The squad stood in uneasy silence, the weight of the unknown pressing on their shoulders. For the first time, humanity had not only touched an alien life, they had bonded with it, and the consequences would echo far beyond the walls of their small outpost. The bond had changed everything. The alien girl was stronger now, her skin glowing faintly, her voice clearer. She could walk slowly across the medical wing, though her steps were weak. Every time her eyes found Lewis, a faint smile touched her lips, as if he was the anchor keeping her alive. But the soldiers were restless. Whispers spread through the base, men asking questions Miller could not answer. What was she? Why did she need human energy, and what would happen if her hunger grew? Some soldiers looked at her with pity, but many looked at her with fear. Diaz was the loudest voice of doubt. She's dangerous, sir. She's feeding off us. We don't even know how much she'll take next time, he said. Miller's reply was always the same. She stays alive, until I say otherwise. But even Miller knew control was slipping. One night, alarms suddenly blared through the base. Red lights flashed, boots pounded against metal floors, soldiers shouted orders. An enemy drone had been spotted, circling the perimeter. It wasn't human-made. It was alien, sleek, and dark, with a single red eye glowing. The soldiers rushed to defensive positions, weapons aimed at the sky. The drone hovered, scanning, searching, before pulling back into the night. It did not attack, but everyone knew it wasn't random. It was hunting. Inside the medical wing, the alien girl trembled, her eyes wide with fear. She whispered in a shaking voice, "They found me, my hunters, they come." Lewis leaned forward. Hunters? Who are they? Her voice cracked. Enemies, they destroy my world. They follow the last of us. They want no survivors. Her words struck cold into every soldier's chest. She wasn't just a survivor. She was prey, and now humanity was standing between her and her hunters. Miller clenched his fists, his voice hard. If they know she's here, they'll come in force, and we'll be the first target. Diaz's voice was sharp. Then hand her over. Let them take her, save ourselves. The alien girl flinched at his words, her glowing eyes filling with sorrow. No, if they take me, they kill all, she whispered. Her voice shook, but her meaning was clear. If she fell into their hands, more than her life was at stake. Lewis stood between her and Diaz, his voice firm. No one's handing her over. Not while I'm here. Diaz's glare burned, but Miller raised a hand, silencing him. The sergeant's face was shadowed, but his voice carried steel. She stays, we protect her, but we prepare for war. That night, the base was locked down. Soldiers reinforced walls, scanners swept the skies. But fear still crept through the halls, the kind of fear that comes when the enemy is unseen. And in the middle of it all, the alien girl sat quietly, her glowing eyes heavy with guilt. She knew her presence was the reason danger was coming. Lewis sat beside her, his voice soft. "Why are they hunting you? Why destroy your people?" Her answer came with tears in her eyes. "My kind, once strong, we had power, life energy. Other races feared us. They wanted it, so they hunted, destroyed. Now I am last." She looked at him, her voice trembling. "But with human bond, I live. They fear that. They fear you." Lewis froze at her words. They didn't just want to kill her. They wanted to stop humanity from becoming something new. If humans could bond with her kind, if they gained even a fraction of her power, it could change the balance of the galaxy. Outside, in the dead of night, shadows moved across the hills again. More drones, more red eyes scanning, closer this time. The hunters had marked their prey, and they were tightening the circle. Miller watched from the command post, his jaw set. He knew what was coming. This wasn't just a rescue mission anymore. It was survival. Protecting the alien girl meant putting every man under his command in danger. But leaving her meant betraying everything he stood for. Back in the medical wing, Lewis felt the alien girl's cold hand slip into his. Her voice was barely a whisper, but it reached deep into his heart. "Danger comes, but human hearts stronger. Together we fight. Together we live." Lewis nodded slowly, even though fear churned in his chest, because he understood something the others didn't. This wasn't just about saving her anymore. This was about saving themselves. For if her hunters reached her, humanity would learn what true extinction looked like. And in that silent night, with red eyes watching from the dark hills, the hidden danger stepped closer, waiting for the moment to strike. The night stretched heavy over the base. Every soldier stayed awake, every weapon loaded, every light burning through the darkness. The alien drones had not attacked yet, but they circled like vultures in the sky, waiting, watching, hunting. The soldiers whispered to each other in fear, and one question spread like poison. Why risk their lives for her? Inside the command post, Sergeant Miller stood with his officers. Maps of the area glowed on the table, showing blips of movement on the scanners. He listened as Diaz argued fiercely. "Sir, this is suicide. Those things are out there for her. Not for us. If we hand her over, they'll leave, and we live." Another soldier muttered, "He's right. Why should we die for something that isn't even human?" Miller's face was stone, his voice hard. "And what if we do hand her over? What if they don't leave? What if they kill us anyway, because we protected her?" Silence filled the room, the truth hanging heavy. The choice was not simple. Meanwhile, in the medical wing, Lewis sat beside the alien girl. Her eyes glowed faintly in the dim light, her breathing steady but tired. She could feel the tension in the air, the anger of the soldiers, the fear in their hearts. Her soft voice broke the silence. "They want to give me away, don't they?" Lewis hesitated, then nodded slowly. "Some of them, yes, they think you're too dangerous or not worth saving." Her glowing eyes closed for a moment, pain flickering across her face. "My kind always feared, always hunted. Now even humans think the same," she whispered. Lewis shook his head quickly. "Not all of us. Not me. Not Sergeant Miller. We're trying to protect you." She looked at him, her gaze deep and searching. "But how long before they choose safety over me? How long before even you doubt?" Lewis's chest tightened, but he held her hand firmly. "I won't doubt. Not ever. You're not a monster. You're someone who deserves a chance." Back in the command post, the arguments grew louder. Diaz slammed his fist on the table. "She's one alien girl, sir, one. Are you ready to lose this entire squad for her?" Miller stared at the map, his jaw clenched. He remembered every soldier he had lost in battle, every promise he had made to protect the living. And now he faced a choice heavier than any war he had fought. Finally, he spoke, his voice sharp. "No one touches her. No one hands her over. She stays under my protection." The room erupted in protest, but Miller silenced them with a glare. "We're soldiers. Our job isn't just to survive. It's to stand for something greater. If we give her up, we give up what makes us human." Meanwhile, outside the base, The hunters drew closer. Red lights blinked through the night, silent machines crawling over the hills. They moved like predators, closing the circle around the base. The choice Miller made would be tested sooner than he thought. Lewis returned to the command post just as Miller finished speaking. The young private's face was pale, but his voice was steady. "She's not just asking to live, sir. She's asking to stand with us. She told me her hunters fear us because of what we could become. They fear what happens if humans and her kind join." The officers stared at him in silence. Miller's eyes narrowed. "You're saying she's not only a risk, she's a chance." Lewis nodded. "Yes, sir. Maybe even our only chance." The room grew quiet, the soldiers exchanging uneasy glances. The weight of Miller's decision pressed down like a mountain. To protect her meant war with enemies beyond their understanding. To surrender her meant safety for now, but at the cost of honor, maybe even the future. Later that night, Miller walked alone to the medical wing. The alien girl looked up as he entered, her glowing eyes filled with both hope and fear. He stood in silence for a moment, then finally spoke. "You've brought danger to us, but you've also given us something we never had before. Hope. I won't hand you over, but you must promise me, if you live with our help, you fight with us too." The girl lowered her head, tears shimmering in her glowing eyes. "Yes, I promise. I fight. I protect. I am with humans now." Her voice shook, but there was strength in it. For the first time, Miller saw not just weakness in her, but courage. As Miller turned to leave, the alarms blared again. This time it was not a warning. It was the signal of attack. Explosions thundered in the distance. The walls shook. Soldiers shouted orders. The hunters had arrived, and the choice Miller made was no longer words. It was war. The base shook under the weight of explosions. Walls trembled. Alarms screamed. Soldiers rushed through smoke-filled halls. The hunters had finally come, their machines descending from the dark sky like predators. Red eyes glowed in the night, scanning, targeting, hunting. Miller barked orders, his voice cutting through the chaos. "Positions, hold the line, don't let them breach." Gunfire cracked, rockets launched, the air filled with fire and metal. But for every drone that fell, two more appeared, circling closer. Inside the medical wing, Lewis stayed with the alien girl. She stood weakly, her glowing hands trembling, her eyes wide with fear. "They come for me, not you. If I stay, humans die," she whispered. Lewis shook his head, gripping his rifle. "No, we're already in this fight. We don't leave our own behind." The door burst open. Diaz stormed in, his face hard, his rifle ready. "This is it. Miller's wrong. We end this now," he growled, aiming his weapon at her. Lewis stepped in front of her instantly, his voice sharp. "You'll shoot me first." Diaz's eyes burned with anger. "She's the reason we're dying. If we kill her, maybe they'll stop." Before Diaz could fire, the alien girl lifted her trembling hand. A glow spread through the room, not violent, but heavy with power. Her voice echoed, broken but strong. "No more death, no more fear." Diaz froze, his fingers stiff on the trigger, as if her presence itself had stilled him. Suddenly, the walls shook again, and part of the ceiling collapsed. A hunter drone smashed through, its red eye glowing, weapons charging. The soldiers fired desperately, but the drone ignored them, its gaze fixed only on her. The alien girl stepped forward, her voice calm, though her body trembled. "They don't want war, they want me." Lewis grabbed her arm, desperate. "If you go, you'll die." Her glowing eyes turned to him, filled with sadness and something deeper. "Better I die than humans fall," she whispered, but Lewis shook his head. "No, that's not how this ends." The drone charged its weapon, but before it could fire, the girl pressed both hands against Lewis's chest. A surge of power exploded between them, light filling the room. Lewis gasped as his body burned with energy, his veins glowing faintly blue. The girl's voice echoed inside his head. "You gave me life, now I give you strength." The drone fired, but Lewis raised his hand instinctively. A barrier of shimmering light burst into existence, deflecting the shot. The soldiers stared in shock, their eyes wide. Lewis, just a young private, now stood glowing like her, part human, part something more. The girl fell to her knees, her body weak, her strength flowing into him. Her voice was faint but steady. "This is the truth. Humans and my kind are one. Your energy, our bond, together stronger than any enemy." She looked at Miller, who stood in stunned silence. "Your race feared, but now they will fear you, because you can be more." Miller finally spoke, his voice heavy. "So that's what this is all about. Not just survival, not just saving you, but the future." The girl nodded weakly. "Yes, my people lost, but humans can rise with bond. You will never be hunted. You will be the hunters." Lewis turned back to the drone, power glowing around him. With a shout, he struck forward, the barrier blasting into the machine, tearing it apart in a burst of fire. The room shook with the explosion, but Lewis stood tall, his body still glowing faintly. The soldiers stared in silence, awe and fear mixing in their eyes. The alien girl collapsed, her glow fading, her body fragile again. Lewis caught her, his voice breaking. "Don't leave me, not now." Her faint smile touched his lips. "I live, because of you. But now humans must choose, protect me, or take my gift for themselves." Outside, the hunters began to retreat, their drones pulling back into the sky. They had seen enough. The humans were no longer just humans. They had bonded, and that bond had changed everything. Miller looked out over the battlefield, smoke rising, fire burning. His voice was low, almost to himself. "We've crossed a line tonight. We're not just fighting for Earth anymore. We're fighting for something bigger, for a future we never imagined." Lewis carried the alien girl in his arms, her faint glow still shimmering against his chest. Her whisper was the last sound before she slipped into deep sleep. Together, human and I, one path, one destiny. And as the night settled over the ruined base, every soldier knew the truth. The war was no longer just about survival. It was about what humanity was about to become.